again, that's just not true.
Are you
That's
talking
just
about the
not
Kingdom
true.
of Wessex?
The
Are you
level
talking
of
about the
immigration to
Danelaw?
this country
Are you
until the
talking about the
Blair years
Normans
was
or
in
the
the
Romans?
it was in the low thousands.
Oh, that's
British people for millennia, for centuries
not
have
millennia. No.
yes, millennia. Yeah,
No, not millennia, Julia. People haven't been here for millennia.
he's a former Labour Party spokesman, very much not a member of the Labour Party anymore, as you're always keen to point out, James. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
I know you always like me to. Now, look, I just want to ask you first of all about this China spy case, because we've got a war of words between the current Director of Public Prosecutions, Stephen Punkston, and the former Director of Public Prosecutions, now the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, over who's responsible for the collapse of this spy case. Must point out that the two men who've been alleged to have been spies do deny all charges, Christopher Barry and Chris Cash. But the chief prosecutor, the DPP, basically says the government collapsed this trial because they wouldn't provide the evidence, which he believes it does exist, that they believe China to be an enemy state. But the Prime Minister says that's not true. Who do you believe, the current or the former DPP?
I think it's very difficult at the moment. I mean, I obviously don't understand the kind of technicalities of the case, as I'm not an expert in this area of law.
I don't think the Prime Minister does.
Well, I don't think any of them do. I think there's a general fear of China in general. I find this in Westminster quite a lot. On the Tory side, you see that kind of manifest as a kind of saber rattle, and we need to be strong. We need to kind of go against the China and everything. On the Labour side, there's this idea of international trade deals coming before security and defence, which is always quite questionable. And there's always been an issue on the Labour side, funnily enough, of defence issues and being strong on language. You're okay to do it with Putin, right? That's kind of like well-trodden ground. You can do it with Putin. But when it comes to other countries, the likes of China, which is a kind of rising threat and has been considered to be a rising threat by most of our allies, there's always a discomfort around it, which I've always found interesting.
It's because we do a lot more trade with China. I mean, that's the reality.
Money, yeah.
It's about the money. But again, a lot of people are very wary of this, aren't they? Can I ask you about the Tory conference? Because obviously Kemi Badenoch in less than an hour is going to be giving her big keynote speech. A lot of people are talking about she won't make it past the May local elections, when both your old lot, Labour, and the Tories are expected to get an absolute trouncing by parties like Reform and probably Lib Dems and I don't know whatever the Jezbollah party is called, the Greens, whoever. We often have these sort of protest votes, but there's even talk that she could face a shadow cabinet, an attempt to oust her even before then. What do you make of the threat to the two biggest parties from the parties sort of supposedly to the left and to the right? Is that something to be welcomed? The end, it would appear, this has been prophesied before, of the two-party politics in this country?
Yeah, I would with caution say that it's the end of it. It's certainly they're under threat at the moment, but they have this kind of wonderful ability, because of our political system benefiting Labour and the Tories, to bounce back from this. And unless significant changes are made to our voting system and the way that we do elections, then I don't see it being a huge threat. You've got to remember as well as our kind of elected legislature, we've got things like the House of Lords that complicate things even more when it comes to the matter. But I do think that overall, it should be a lesson for the Tories and for Labour. It's one that that Labour seem to have been aware of, at least in the last couple of weeks. They've tailored their message. They're trying to adjust it to fit the threat of reform. But the problem is with the Tories, I still don't see them taking that seriously. And the irony is, reform were a product of the Tories. They're a product. They came from the belly of that beast because of the Brexit issue, because of various other issues. The Eurosceptic wing of the Tory party broke off. And without that kind of collapse in the Tory vote, you wouldn't have seen that swell in reform. And we're seeing every week, it's not even a news story anymore, the Conservative councillors are crossing the floor and joining reform. So it will be a question eventually of who has more sway, who is the predominant right-wing party in British politics and centre-right politics. Is it reform or is it the Tory party? We'll have to see what happens.
Well, we shall see what happens there. A lot of criticism of the Shadow Justice Secretary in the last few days, again, by, I would say, the usual suspects, over what we had Robert Jenrick saying about a visit to Handsworth in Birmingham, where he talked about how, you know, they didn't see another white face, and saying it looked like Islam, and he was saying it's one of the worst integrated places. He also said it's not about, you know, skin colour or faith. It was... Well, I mean, he categorically stated that. He's now being accused of fueling toxic nationalism. I don't know why nationalism is toxic, but...
Well, toxic nationalism is. That's a different kind of nationalism. You can have nationalism, you can have toxic nationalism, you know, it's just the fact that it's toxic. And when you're saying it's not about skin colour, when he says that, but then in the same breath, he said, I didn't see another white face. What does that mean?
We didn't see another white face. That's what it means.
But what
he went to an area in Birmingham where he didn't see another white face. This is a 91. This Handsworth is a 91% ethnic minority populated area. And and it's largely Muslim, but there's actually other groups as well. But he's pointed out that, you know, we don't have integration and multinational. What we've got is areas which are completely separate, living parallel lives. He said, I want to live in a country where people are properly integrated. It's not about the colour of your skin or your faith. He says, but I want people to be living alongside each other, not parallel lives.
But it is
What's
about
not
the
to like about that? Sort of thing Martin Luther King would have said.
No, but it is about the colour of your skin, though, isn't it? Because he's made that assessment on the fact that he's not seen any white faces. How many of those non-white faces that he saw were British?
Well, but he wasn't pointing out that they weren't British. In fact, actually, that ward has a very high number of people who come from abroad. It's got something like, I think, 17% of people who don't speak English. It's not their first. Well, about 37%, I think, don't speak as their first language, and about half of those, according to the official stats, don't speak English well or at all. So what he pointed out was all absolutely true. Is pointing out facts, is that toxic? Is that racist?
Yes, if you're using them in the way that he's using them.
How did he use them?
Pointing facts out like that. Because he didn't go to rural Northumberland, where I'm from, and say, my God, there's not any brown faces around here.
We're a white country. We are historically a white country.
Right, Julia, that's where we get into an issue here.
Because that's a fact.
We start conflating skin colour and race
with
our culture
you just
and our
mentioned...
identity.
No, I'm not conflating race and skin colour with our... No, it is a matter of fact that the vast majority of people in this country now and have always been white, and it's only recently that we've had a large influx in the last few decades, in fact, particularly in the last 2 decades, of people who are not white. We are a white country, in the same way that Nigeria is a black country, and India, people are Asian, or of Indian ethnicity. This is not complicated for any other country.
There aren't people going around in Nigeria, are there, and looking for white faces and saying, "Ooh, we're not sure."
But hold on a minute. We have people like, we have sort of, various, the National Trust or whatever. All these people saying, "Oh, there aren't enough white people in the countryside." We have people like Jon Snow, and he was on Channel 4 complaining that he'd never seen so many white faces at a Brexit march. I mean, so it is actually commented on all the time as somehow a bad thing. He wasn't saying it was a bad thing that there were people of colour. He was pointing out that they were this was a community living a parallel life.
I understand why you need to go to the lengths that you do to defend Robert Jenrick on this.
I'm not going to any lengths.
Why are you defending him on it?
Why wouldn't I defend someone saying facts?
Why do you feel that Robert Jenrick, in doing this, which is something that the majority of people I've spoken to, by the way, were like, "Oh, that's awful, that's not nice."
What was awful? I don't understand what was awful about it.
And yet you feel the need to come out with some big defence of him because you think he's just speaking facts, right?
No, I feel the need always to defend people saying things.
Because most of us wouldn't speak like that, because it doesn't matter to me what the colour of the faces of the people are on the street. It does to you, and I've just got to ask you why, because it's
it doesn't.
weird.
It doesn't matter to me the colour of the people on the street. What matters is whether we have communities that are integrated and living alongside each other and sharing the same culture. There is ample evidence, numerous government reports, numerous reports by think tanks that have shown that actually we are not an integrated society. We have effectively ghettos of people from different faith and religion, faith and ethnic backgrounds living separate parallel lives.
I ask you what those people of colour could be doing to show Robert Jenrick and to show you who are bothered about it that they're supposedly integrated, regardless of their national identity.
Well, I would suggest a large number of them being able to speak English might be a good idea.
Okay, but that's 17%. You've already said that's a minority, so that's not. That's not
quite a lot of people in one little ward.
In one ward, yeah, absolutely. But the majority, it's not the case. Would you like to see them, when you see these people taking on British culture and supposedly becoming integrated, do you want to see them in church?
Well, I mean, vast majority of people in this country don't go to church. That's not the point.
I'm not going to a church. I don't believe in God.
No, neither do I. So that wouldn't be part of it.
What do you want to see them do?
What do we want to see people do? What he means, he can come on and speak for himself, is what he means.
No, I'm asking you.
No, I'm asking what would I like? I think I would like people like you to accept that there is actually a history of this country which is not based on diversity and multiculturalism.
You would like me to accept that we're a white nation? Accept
the fact of our history and the people of this country.
Who do you identify with? The Saxons or the Romans or the Danes? Which one are you identifying?
Well, I'm half Irish heritage, so I don't really know. Okay. But I don't identify with a lot of the multicultural identities that we do now have in this country. I identify as British and English. That's what I identify as.
Well, Julie, I've got bad news for you about British and English, because unfortunately, historically, we have been a huge melting pot.
You see, again, that's just not true. That's just not true. The level of immigration to this country until the Blair years was in the low thousands a year. In some years, there was net immigration.
When we talk about English, what are we? Because when I come from Northumbria and I look at my DNA and I look at my history, I'm Scandinavian, right? Because it's all Vikings and the Danelaw, everyone who came across here. People in the south of England, a lot of the times, they've been there for a long time and they talk about their heritage and their history.
Not been there for a long time. British people for millennia, for centuries.
Not millennia, no.
Yes, millennia. Yeah,
no, not millennia, Julia. People haven't been here for millennia. This is the problem.
Millennia. You don't think anyone lived in this country 2,000 years ago? Mate, the Romans invaded. We were here then.
You don't know, but the idea of this modern English or British culture and idea, the idea of that being millennia, people who were wearing Thor's hammer necklaces, Julia, people who were praying to different gods, the idea of Christianity and modern English culture being existing for millennia is nonsense.
Well, again, I don't think you understand the word millennia for a start. I'm going to have to leave it here, partly because it's just unbelievably frustrating to talk to someone who doesn't know the most basic facts about history, James, but also because time is out. But I'm sure we'll speak again. We didn't get to quite a lot of the other things, including the anti-Semitism on the streets, but I'm sure we'll come to that another time. James Matthewson, former Labour Party spokesman, does not speak to the Labour Party. Sam Armstrong, you're huffing and puffing there. You've got close links with Robert Jenrick. You ran his leadership campaign last time around. Just a quick response before I go to a break.
They start by telling you can't say basic common facts, observations about what you see, and then they end up in the same way telling you that there's no such thing as English, there's no such thing as British, you don't exist. You people don't exist. You're not allowed to make observations. You're not allowed to believe in yourself. The British people are fiction. English people are fiction. There is nothing.
We're always multi-ethnic, multicultural. Everyone knows that.
And Pakistani people and Indian people and all the rest of them, they're an identity. They exist. We don't exist. We don't count. Shut up and just take what's coming for you.
Shut up, brackets, racist, close brackets. I mean, that's
you just heard it.
That's the reality. That's the underlying thing. Again, what's fascinating about the left in this country, the only nationalism, the only nation state they believe in is Palestine.
Oh,
it's literally the only one they believe in. No one else gets one.
English people didn't exist. Stonehenge just fell from the blooming sky. Give over. Just go away.
Who was subjugated by the Romans? But it is literally unbelievable. If you had basic stats of what people look like in this country and what their ethnic, where they derive from over the centuries, we know it's we had censuses. We have a record of this stuff, and I absolutely have no issue with there being more black or brown people in this country. But I do think, as Jenrick pointed out, we do have an issue of a failure of integration between different communities. And if you come to this country, your family came to this country, and there are some which are very, very well integrated, and there's not been an issue with at all, and accepting British culture, supporting British culture, being part of British culture, and others that are not doing that successfully. But pointing that out makes you a bad person. Well, I will still go to any others to defend any politician of any political hue who states facts and then gets derided for them. 10:50 is the time. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that.